This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now, from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And great to be with you on this Thursday, the opening of the Pennsylvania Summer Special Olympics. Sure they'll get some idiot to MC it tonight. What? It'll be at Medler Field, Lebrano Park, and looking forward to it tonight. And this opening half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford Kia Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. They go over every vehicle there. I mean, it eases the buying process and the service department, whether it's quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Okay, the big story of the day for Penn State is the coaching staff did meet today with the media, and it did finally come out that Max Granville suffered a long-term injury, the defensive end, going into his second year at Penn State. And James Franklin said he got hurt over break at home and working out. And so now he's a guy I think they were looking at that was going to get significant playing time with them. I mean, right now the starters in all likelihood would be Denai Dennis Sutton and Zariah Fisher. But you know how Penn State plays, and I've told you over and over again about my philosophy on when I look at Penn State's roster. To me, it's not just the 11 people who start, it's the people that will play significant minutes during the game. Because Penn State will play, they're not just playing somebody in the first and second quarter, they'll show up in the third and fourth quarter as well. So I look at them as maybe 20 to 25 starters out there. Granville was one of those 20 to 25 starters. He was going to play a significant number of plays for Penn State. I wouldn't doubt Max would have been out there for 25 to 35 plays a game, and maybe increasing as the season went along, but they're not going to have him. So other people are going to now have to step up in his stead. This is where two guys that, I'll give you a couple guys that have great potential, but potential's a fancy way of saying you haven't done it yet. Jalen Harvey is obviously a guy we saw flashes of last year that is going to get into this mix should he keep himself healthy. The Malachi Williams you didn't see last year. There's a lot of things about him I like. Mason Robinson. In the preseason last year, I really liked what I saw from Mason Robinson. Then he got hurt, and he was out for a few months. And I still think that he is somebody that has a chance to really contribute. Anae White is the transfer from Texas A&M, and I thought by the end of the spring, he started to show me the reasons why Penn State was hoping he would come here. So he got up to a slow start, but then at the end of the spring, I thought he was playing pretty well. And then Ivan Camajo, Camajo is really talented. And I remember thinking to myself, not just from a blue-white point of view, but we were walking off the field at Beaver Stadium. I said, I just want to make sure that I have your first name pronounced correctly because you're going to play. And that's why I know it's Ivan. Because he told me, Ivan Camajo. And then they have the kid, Deshaun Burnett, as well. So we'll see what they do. But the Granville injury, that hurts. Again, this is where depth comes into play. because you already have lost at that position Abdul Carter to the Giants, Amin Vanover to the NFL, and Smith Vilbert, who transferred to North Carolina. So because of that, I mean, certain guys have to step up. And for Malachi Williams, I mean, look, Jalen Harvey, I think, can play. Camacho is somebody that I really, like the entire spring, was impressed over and over again with him. And, you'll have younger guys like Burnett, I mentioned, Chaz Coleman, Cortez Harris, and then there's the true freshman Daniel Jennings, who reclassified. Right, so this is where they are with this. And, of course, Malachi Williams, I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. You didn't see any of him last year. He has a lot of – he wears 20, and there are some things, not always, but some things he does that remind you of Adisa Isaac. Now, it'd be great if someday he got to be Adisa Isaac. But, like, he's 6'3", 250 now. And 4 times last year, he was the scout team defensive player of the week. Now, how does that translate into a game? Only you and I can guess. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you how it translates into a game, because I can only do that watching him play the game. So that's the big story there. I mean, again, this is what you worry about with any team. In the week-by-week grind, which is not just game-by-game grind, but week-by-week grind, this is what you get concerned about. And when you're talking about a 16-game season, even something that happens in the offseason can have a profound impact on what you're doing, and especially at a particular position. And this is what you have. I mean, look, they tried to get Vanover back for an extra year. It didn't work with the NCAA. Vilbert, I think, surprised them when he transferred. Just like I think when Tamir Robinson transferred, surprised them. I mean, they got Amari Campbell out of it. The question is, do you take I think it would be interesting to see if there's anybody that qualifies to play on that outside spot that maybe isn't a pure defensive end now, that can maybe play that spot. And, for example, for a few plays, a guy like Campbell go out there and play? Can you put Dominic DeLuca there for a few plays? I mean, I don't know. These are just spitballing ideas here. But that's the big story of the day, is that Max Granville, significant long-term injury for Penn State. Tough, because, I mean, you want to talk about, you could see, and look, they're playing last year in the Fiesta Bowl. He's out there in the field in the fourth quarter of the game when Abdul got hurt. Tells you everything about what they thought of him. I mean, something that tells you when you see somebody out there that tells you that the staff trusts the guy. That's significant. That's significant. So, there you go.
I guess if there's one, I don't know if it's a bright spot for him, at least he's reclassified, and he's a little younger, I guess, and
he is.
It's not gonna hurt his clock too much.
No. I mean, he'll take a red shirt this year. He'll still have 3 years to play.
Trying to find a lone bright spot.
No, it's hard, because he's a guy that you certainly had an eye on, saying he's going to play 25, 35 plays a game. Just I'm throwing out, casual numbers here on that, but like I could see that happening. And he's, it's tough to lose anybody. Yeah, but again, this is what you get concerned about over a long season. And the season now, it's all year round. I mean, you can lose guys in winter workouts. You can lose guys in the spring. I mean, Penn State lost guys in the spring last year. That's why this spring they kind of came through the spring, and they kind of came through it in pretty good shape. You're like, okay. And then this happens. And it happened back, I think it happened down in Texas. I think it happened back home. So, yeah.
I guess the other kind of bright spot is it's June. Coach Knowles has a chance to go back into the laboratory and figure something out.
Right, in conjunction with Deion Barnes.
Yeah, and it's not like when they had to adjust on the fly when KJ got hurt during the season last year.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's always the toughest when you have to do it on the fly and improvise. So, yeah. And, I mean, it's June. It's not October. All right. Yeah. And that's where you are. So, just so you know, that's just another thing to... that's the big story of the day. The NBA Finals will get underway tonight. And this is going to be a tremendous test for what the NBA is. What is the NBA? They consistently portray themselves as the second. They don't say it out loud that they're the second most popular sport, but they kind of feel like, hey, outside the NFL, hey, how about the NBA? I mean, we're the hot league. And to their credit, they went out and put together a TV contract that I honestly didn't think they could achieve. I said on the show, I said, look, they want 3 times the number. I said they'll probably get 2 to 2.5. That 3 times is an opening salvo. Okay. Well, it turned out they got 3 times between the NBC deal, which is a great deal, because in terms of the time is so important on this, because the deal with NBC is for Sunday night NBA basketball, which gets rolling right after Sunday night football. So it makes it a year-round or 9-month deal for NBC on Sunday nights. Okay. Amazon Prime. Well, okay, you already have the Thursday night football package with the NFL. They piggyback off of that, put the NBA in there, and of course you still have ESPN and ABC. And thank goodness for the thorough and complete brilliance of Mike Breen. He saves them on a nightly basis. But now you have, I'm going to go back 30 years. I can do that because I've done this a while. But in hosting a talk show, I'm talking back in 95. And at that point, the NBA had this really great 15-year run. And I said, here's the bottom line on the 15-year run. They had the finals that, for the most part, either featured Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, or Michael Jordan over the 15-year span. And sometimes it was multiple. In the Eastern Conference Final, it was Dr. J and Larry Bird. Or in the finals, it was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Or it was Michael Jordan against Magic. They had this magical 15-year run. Like, even when Detroit got in, they had to beat the Lakers. Like, okay. I said, there's going to be a point where Utah plays Atlanta in the final. I said, then we're going to find out what the NBA actually is made of. Now, this is 30 years ago. I said, now we're going to find out Utah plays Atlanta. Okay, do they really have something in the tank? Because after I made that statement 30 years ago, Jordan's back in the finals 3 straight years. Then all of a sudden, Shaq's going, and Shaq goes to the Lakers and joins with Kobe. And, okay, you got Shaq and Kobe together. And then Shaq ends up going over to Miami for a year, and they win the championship with Wade. Then LeBron is now going, and then LeBron finally goes to Miami, and he goes through that 10-year run where LeBron's in the finals all 10 years between the Heat and the Cavaliers. And with the Heat, he joins forces with Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and they create this us against the world mentality where there's a group of fans that just love LeBron and they love the Heat, and there's a group of fans that want to see the Heat be emblematic of their nickname and, in basketball terms, go down in flames. Because they can't stand them. They can't stand LeBron. They can't stand the Heat. They can't stand that the three guys got together, for whatever ridiculous reasons there are out there. But what do both sides have in common when you have that kind of passion? They're all watching. People are watching. I don't care whether you like them or not. You're both watching, which then brought Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green into the forefront along with Kevin Durant and Golden State. They've got that. And last year, they had the Celtics in the finals, right? I know people are like, oh, they had Luka. Luka doesn't draw eyeballs, okay? Brands draw eyeballs. The Celtics were the draw last year in the final. Luka was just there, okay? No offense. You can love the NBA all you want. You got to be realistic about it. Okay? The people that watched last year were Celtics fans, right? There weren't people going, hey, Luka's playing in the finals. They're like, hey, the Celtics have won 17 championships, so they've had a following for decades. Well, you don't have that this year. This has nothing to do with the talent on the floor. Halliburton is a superior talent. Siakam is just a great, hardworking, championship pedigree player, right? Turner's really good. Then then on the other side, you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, great talent. Holmgren, great talent. Williams, great talent. But that doesn't matter in this. Outside of Indianapolis and Oklahoma City, where are the Pacers and Thunder fans? Where's the national following? And the Thunder, they were the best team in the NBA all season from day one. From day one, they were the best. And that's it's good. This is the test. Yeah, somewhat yet a little bit. A couple of years ago when Denver beat Miami, but Miami had Jimmy Butler. Jokic, of course, is an established star and had been for a while. So, yeah, to some extent, but not Oklahoma City and Indianapolis. No. And this is about markets and brands, Todd. This is not about talent.
Oh, yeah, I get it, definitely. Because
these are two terrifically talented teams.
I think this is going to be a fun series, but I totally get your point, and I do wonder, SGA and Chet Holmgren, and they've had a little bit of a national ad campaign. I'm not sure anybody in the Pacers has right now. I don't know how well known anybody on either of these teams are. I'm not sure the casual sports fan could tell you that SGA was the MVP this year.
I agree, and I think if there's a player that casual fans know, believe it or not, it's Chet Holmgren. Why? Because he played 1 year at Gonzaga, and Gonzaga's a national brand. This has been one of the NBA's. It's been a plus that they've tapped in all the world's talent in terms of talent. It's been a minus that the world's talent comes to play in the NBA, and nobody knows who the heck they are. I mean, Ricochet's drafted last year, everybody's like, who? Now, this year, people are going to sit there and watch the draft and go, hey, Cooper Flagg, I know him. Holmgren played at Gonzaga. They know him. And I know Gilgeous-Alexander played at Kentucky. But Holmgren was on a team that people watched, so they know who he is. But there's terrific talent that people don't know. And, look, Adam Silver is trying to save face here. because he gave the NFL comparison. He said, well, hey, look, hey, when you're a really good league, hey, Green Bay can play Pittsburgh, not the two biggest markets, and those are the two he used. Green Bay can play Pittsburgh. He said, not the biggest markets out there, yet you'll have 100 to 120 million people watching. Well, no offense, Adam, you're not going to have 120 to 120 million people watching total for the series, even if you add up all the nights together. Ain't going to happen. They've got a problem with this. This is going to look, and they don't have to worry about it. They've got their money coming in. They're going to get $7.5 billion. Their money's going to be coming in. It's guaranteed. So that's not the issue. It's just going to be a tip-off as to who they really are. Right? I mean, in other words, how popular is the NBA? Can you actually put two quality teams out there that nobody knows anything about and people watch?
I would also argue with Adam Silver that though they might be small markets, that's two of the biggest brands in the NFL.
Right, exactly. And that's a big problem for them. I mean, the brands in the NBA, the brands are the Lakers, no question, the Celtics, the Knicks. So, I mean, it's a lot like the NHL. I mean, the NHL, any time that the original six happen to be in a series, it's a big deal. Right? Even though most young people, like all these other teams have been, I mean, the Washington Capitals just played their 50th season. But the Rangers, the Red Wings, the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens, the Bruins, the Blackhawks, they're still the ones that draw as the original six. And the NBA's a lot in the same way. It's the Lakers, it's the Knicks, it's the Celtics. It's the 76ers to a point.
I think they'd be a lot happier with with the Philadelphia team in there than either one of these two.
I agree. No, absolutely. No. That would be.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the Lakers beat the Sixers one year, but it's still Philadelphia against Los Angeles.
Time or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Multiple insurance needs, we all have them. It's not just an insurance need. Multiple. Auto, home, life, maybe it's business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Even Medicare products. And they'll make sure you're fully insured and do everything they can to save you money. It is all at customer service means everything to them. All at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. So what, we got Nick Faribault coming on later today, I believe, right?
Yep, 2:05.
2:05 with Nick. Adam Silver said this, and it was, I think, realistic, yet at the same time he is doing his due diligence as the commissioner of the NBA. So the one thing I really admire about the NFL, said Silver, I mean, if we're going into a Super Bowl and it's the Packers against the Steelers, you guys would be celebrating that. Those are two storied franchises. People wouldn't be talking about how Pittsburgh is a small market. I'm happy with whatever team is in the finals. It's been intentional to create a system through collective bargaining that allows more teams to compete. We're going to have to go through a process of getting to the point where people are accustomed to tuning into the finals because the two teams deserve to be there, and it's the best basketball. Okay? Similar to, again, with the Super Bowl. If I asked somebody if they're going to watch the Super Bowl, they would say who is playing. They wouldn't say who is playing. It's a national holiday. Now, that's Nevada. I'm not saying that we are anywhere close to that, to his credit. He says there is still, if the Knicks are in the final, there is a segment of our fan base that's going to watch that may not watch if it's other teams. Maybe, maybe not. But it's my job to get people to love and follow this game. And so if you are a huge basketball fan, you should want to tune in because that's the best basketball. Now, the bottom line is, if you are a basketball fan, which we are, yeah, I'm going to watch. Because I think this has nothing to do with the talent. There's nothing to do with the talent. Halliburton's terrific. SGA's terrific. Holmgren, Williams, right? I mean, they got a lot. We're going to see a lot of really terrific players out there. And Oklahoma City as a team is a beautiful team to watch play at both ends of the floor. But it is easy to convince me to watch because I'm a basketball fan. And the difference is, can you get the casual fan to watch? That's the challenge they have. And, even when the Toronto Raptors were in the final in 2019, they faced the Warriors. And, yeah, there was drama because Kevin Durant got hurt and the whole deal, But the bottom line is Toronto won. And if you remember the coverage of it, what was all the coverage about? All the coverage was about the Warriors. It really wasn't about the Raptors.
I'm not sure that you could convince people that the Raptors won a title.
Right. Exactly. Right. Now look, Adam Silver's job is beholden to 30 owners. So he is going out there and he's doing his due diligence. In other words, he is telling everybody, hey, our product is really good now, right? So I know that, and he's realistic that they're not quite where the NFL is. But market-wise, Oklahoma City is the 47th largest market in the country. They're closer to Charleston, West Virginia in market size than they are to New York or Houston. Okay? And if you're wondering about Indianapolis, they're 25th as a market size. It was interesting. If you remember Rick Carlisle postgame, after they'd won over the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Final, he says, hey, there's 49 states for basketball, and then there's Indiana. And Indiana's always been a great basketball state. People love the sport in Indiana. And you know what's interesting, though? This is like 3-4 years ago. Because I think a lot of things in that state changed when Bob Knight was no longer there. And this is like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. When you land at Monroe County Airport, you have to come out of the airport, you make a right at the church onto one of the main roads, and you start driving in on the roads to get to Bloomington. And I said to Dick Girardi, I said, Dick, I said, check out the driveways. He says, what are you talking about? I said, check out the driveways. I said, and tell me what you don't see that we used to see all the time. And he looked at me and goes, oh, my goodness, there are no basketball hoops. I said, no. See, things have changed a little bit in that state. Right? This is why, I talk about, you've heard me use the term management by walking around. Yeah. And that's management by walking around. Observations like, And it's really changed a lot after, love them or hate them. It has nothing to do about whether you love them or hate them. But Bob Knight in that state, those people, things have changed. Now, the Pacers are a team that is loved in Indiana. There's no question about that. But even there, it's a little different than 25 years ago.
I was trying to look up. I wonder if, I thought it was a little, I guess it was just in 2022. I thought it was a little beforehand. I wonder if changing the format of their high school basketball tournament has anything to do with that as well.
It did have something to do with it, yes. It did. And I remember when they did it, where instead of having everybody compete for one title, they did it like Pennsylvania does in separate divisions, size of school. So a Milan High School, which is, by the way, that's Hickory in Hoosiers. Milan High School with Bobby Plump would have won the single A title instead of winning the entire state title.
They don't make a movie about that.
Right, exactly. They don't. And, yeah, I mean, that has something to do with it, but also how, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, because I wasn't there when any of this, went down, right? But whether Miles Brand and his confrontations and ultimate confrontation with Bob Knight, where he was suddenly no longer the coach, I'm not going to get into right, wrong, indifferent. I don't know what how their meetings went. No idea. But he got fired. Okay. Everything in that state changed the day that happened. Yeah, you could feel it. In other words, it was completely different the next time I went back. Like, all right. The arena was different. The area was, in terms of how they felt about it, different. And so now here are the Pacers. And look, and the Pacers, in Indianapolis, they love them. Going back to the Reggie Miller days, they love them. My goodness, the Pacers got into the NBA because they did such a great job in the ABA, winning championships with Mel Daniels and Roger Brown and guys like that back in the day. But in the NBA, they've had some success, including a finals appearance in 2000. But Reggie Miller is, one of those guys that was exciting to watch and made them exciting to watch. But when it comes to the brand of the NBA, the Indiana Pacers don't jump out to the casual fan, neither do the Oklahoma City Thunder, even though they're two terrific teams.
I do wonder if there's, what little there is, would there be any residual effect from, some Thunder fans sprinkled throughout the country from the Westbrook, Durant, James Harden era back in the early part of this decade, or the last decade.
That's only a sprinkling.
Yeah.
It really, not really. Look, and I think think there was a show called Pardon My Take, and Ryan Russillo talked about disingenuous arguments surrounding the league's popularity. He said the fact that it's OKC-Indiana matchup, the guys that are going to be doing victory laps on all this, I can name them all, Russillo said. He said ratings aren't going to be good, he acknowledged. I think a lot of ratings decline stuff is driven by people's political beliefs. What is he talking about? It's driven by brands. Okay? You can't go to the simpleton school of broadcasting. It's driven by brands. Okay? You may not know, okay, that Drew Holiday, or I'll give you a guy, a good player like Derek White's on the Boston Celtics, but look out there and you see the Celtics like going, hey, I know the Celtics, hey, what the heck? And if you're an older fan, you're like, oh, I love Larry Bird. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? That's what this is about. So you love the idea of the NBA being a dying product because it's probably the most progressive league. Nobody cares about that stuff. They don't. So what I don't like are disingenuous arguments. Who's giving you a disingenuous argument on this show? Come on, it's time for some people to grow up. Okay? Stop acting like you're an intellectual. You're not, okay? If you're going to do this, you're not that smart. This is just about, it's Oklahoma City. People don't know about the Thunder because they're not on national TV that often. They're not the Lakers, who have a long-standing brand. They don't, and neither one of these teams brings with it, okay, the heavy like versus I can't stand them and I hope they, quote, in sports terms, go down in flames. Neither one of these teams brings that. Now, 3 years from now, they might. Maybe there'll be a segment that goes, I can't stand, I love Tyrese Halliburton, I can't stand SGA. You might have that, but in this series, you don't have that. Tom Brady. How many times have you heard me say about Tom Brady? Okay? There's a whole segment of the population loves Tom Brady. Which then, in turn, some of them love the Patriots and they love Brady. Some people just love Tom Brady. He's great. I love him. He's so clutch. He's great. And there's a whole segment of the population out there that wanted Brady to throw 5 interceptions and have the Patriots go down in flames. But you know what they both did? They both watched. Okay? That's how you generate a big rating. Yeah. I mean, just in one player, you have white hat, black hat feelings, right? Just in one player. And Tiger Woods was like that. LeBron was like that. Tom Brady was like that, right? Okay. There's certain people that are like that. Brett Favre was like that. Aaron Rodgers is like that. But they both draw viewers. There's nobody in this series that does that for you. You don't have a team that draws that, and you don't have a single player that draws that because people don't know much as a casual fan about Oklahoma City's team, which is a really beautiful all-around basketball team. They're really good. Or about Indiana. I mean, people forget it last year. Indiana got to the Eastern Conference Final last year. The Celtics finally eliminated them. And so they've been in the neighborhood for a couple of years. And Halliburton's a wonderful player to watch. And Turner's a good player. And Siakam's a winner. And T.J. McConnell. And Neesmith. There's some really good players out there. But this has nothing to do with politics. And to insinuate this has something to do with politics is just such an incredibly immature take. There's no common sense to it. There's no common sense. Okay? Okay? And this has nothing to do with a political belief or anything like that. That's immature. It has to do with brands and what do people know and don't know. I mean, how often was Oklahoma City on national TV this year? How many times did we watch the Lakers? And from day one, Oklahoma City was the better team than the Lakers. Just in this particular year. Right?
And probably last year, too.
Yeah, probably last year, too. But like after Luka was acquired. Right?
Yeah.
After Luka was acquired, it was like, oh, my goodness.
The Lakers are going to the finals.
Right. Right. That was the whole thing. They right? They didn't talk about Oklahoma City. Every day they talked about Luka, LeBron, Lakers. Okay? So the 3 L's. Luka, LeBron, Lakers. Lakers, LeBron, Luka. LeBron, Luka, Lakers. Right? Every day. Oklahoma City, yeah, they're in the middle of the country. Okay? This has nothing. Anybody who would see, like this whole thing about Russillo and talking about politics. So it's one of those like, what are you doing? Come on. That is an incredibly reactionary, immature take. If the ratings are lower, it's only because the casual fan has not really been educated enough about how good these two teams are. Because I think if the casual fan watches Oklahoma City, for example, the defense, the teamwork, Williams and SGA and how they play together, and Holmgren with that inside-out play, and Halliburton and Turner, and right? Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun series to watch. I think Oklahoma City is still going to win in 5, but it's a fun series to watch. Right? And next year, if the same two teams, the ratings are going to go higher because I think people will find out that these are two fun teams to watch. I just don't think the NBA's done a good enough job of promoting, or ESPN during the year doesn't do a great job of promoting what everybody else does. Because they concentrate too much time on the simple storylines and not on like some of the important storylines. Like they'll concentrate on what the Clippers are doing. Oh, yeah, they got Kawhi, and then when they have Paul George, they got to kind of keep them together and the whole thing. It's like that team's not going anywhere. Like, come on.
Well, I do think one thing we've learned over the last couple of years is the super team era is probably dead now.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that's good for the league. And you look at them. Look, SGA was acquired in a deal from the Clippers for Paul George. They drafted Holmgren 2nd overall. Had to sit out a year with an injury. But boy, once they got him, he really helped. And Williams, to me, has been the Jaylen Brown of this year's playoffs. Where you sit back and go, okay, this guy can play. Last year with Jaylen Brown, I think you finally got a chance to see how terrific Jaylen Brown really is.
Well, I do wonder if it's more wide. If one of the consequences of Tatum's injury is now the next couple of years are more wide open than they originally were going to be. Because I fully not that they were going to win the game that Tatum got hurt, but I still find it hard to believe the Knicks were going to close out that series quickly if Tatum stays healthy. And I just
and Porzingis
yeah,
but hey, look. You know what? Indiana knocked off Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland had a great year. Indiana knocked off Cleveland. In fact, I think they did in, 5 games?
Yeah.
And then they knocked out the Knicks. I mean, Indiana earned their spot here. Regardless of whether the Celtics are hurt or not, Indiana earned its spot.
I think my intention, my thought was more, it's more wide open. We'll end up with these matchups without the brands, that maybe, with the Celtics not being quite as good or not knowing much about Tatum, it's Indiana and Atlanta and some of those other teams have a better shot than they would have.
Well, at some point, LeBron's going to retire.
You would think.
right? I mean, at some point he will. There's just no getting around that he will. I mean, Father Time is undefeated. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the Lakers react to all that and how the media reacts to the Lakers. Because right now, every time you turn around and something on ESPN, whether it's ESPN radio or whether it happens to be TV, especially the morning talk shows, they talk about the Lakers when the NBA comes up. You feel like, perception-wise, 75% of the time. Like, okay. I don't quite know. There are 29 other teams in the league, and by the way, 2 of them happen to be playing in the finals.
Maybe that's why they moved out of L.A. The ESPN knows LeBron's retiring soon.
Well, but you know what? But again, this has nothing to do with politics or political beliefs.